Welcome, age of vintage society. Candice Bergen is a Hollywood princess turned movie star and TV star. Bergen had to push herself out of her comfort zone, starting as an actress and former model who became a successful photojournalist. She was beautiful at an age where others were gawky, pimply and graceless. But Candice's beauty is just one aspect of her whole person, from the Ice Queen to the Queen of the sitcom. How did Candice Bergen blur the lines between actress and journalist at the time? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. One cool, eternally classy lady, Candice Bergen, was elegantly poised for trendy ice princess stardom when she first arrived on the 60s screen. But she gradually reshaped that debutante image in the 70s both on and off camera. A staunch, outspoken feminist with a decisive edge, she went on to take a sizable portion of those contradicting qualities to film and, most particularly, to late 1980s TV. Beaming, the lithe actress, shimmering in a metallic strapless gown, climbs onto the stage to front the clamouring press pack. In one hand she nonchalantly holds her gold strappy heels, in the other her first Emmy Award. Candice Bergen, after slogging away for decades in poorly reviewed roles, having struggled to find fame in her own right, had finally earned the respect of Hollywood as the eponymous television reporter and recovering alcoholic in Murphy Brown. The woman who once specialised in playing icy Nordic beauties has a great throaty, spontaneous laugh. She's an adventuress who has travelled to the most exotic spots, often solo with her camera. A former model and photojournalist, she was known more for her regal beauty and cool aloofness than her acting talent. Nicknamed the Ice Queen, her earliest on-screen roles had received fairly dismal reviews. But on November 14, 1988, the first ever episode of Murphy Brown aired. Feisty, sarcastic and ambitious, Bergen's eponymous character defined the show, which would run for a decade and garner her 5 Emmys. After her 5th win, she declined future nominations for the role. It made her the undeniable queen of the sitcom, with a salary, she claimed, that ranked her as the highest paid actor in TV. But as the daughter of a famous comedian, Bergen had to overcome demons of self-doubt and a fierce rivalry from a most unsuspecting character, a wooden puppet. Candice Bergen was born May 9, 1946, Los Angeles, California. She is an actress, writer and photojournalist who was best known for playing the smart but prickly and often unreasonable title character in the sitcom Murphy Brown. Bergen was born into Hollywood royalty. Her mother was actress and Chesterfield girl model Frances Bergen, and her father was the ventriloquist and radio comedian Edgar Bergen. The Bergen family traces the history of show business in America. Her paternal grandparents were Swedish-born immigrants who anglicised their surname, which was originally Berggren, mountain branch. As a child, Candice was irritated at being described as Charlie McCarthy's little sister, referring to her father's star dummy. Bergen's father would often sit her on his knee along with Charlie and gently squeeze her neck as a signal for her to move her mouth. "Sometimes I have to give myself credit for being a functional human being," says Bergen, who grew up among Hollywood's rich and famous, including childhood friend Liza Minnelli and Uncle Walt Disney. As a small child, Candice was on her father's radio show, and her first screen appearance was with him in a 1958 episode of the comedy quiz show You Bet Your Life, hosted by Groucho Marx. She said that when she grew up she wanted to design clothes. She attended Westlake School for Girls in Los Angeles, the Cathedral School in Washington, D.C., and then went abroad to the Montesano Finishing School in Switzerland. Although she began taking art, history and creative drawing at the University of Pennsylvania, she did not complete her studies. She worked as a fashion model before she took up acting, featured on the covers of Vogue. In between, she also worked as a Ford model in order to buy cameras for her new passion, photography. Film director Sidney Lumet spotted her posing with a leopard skin pillow in a Revlon ad. Her Grace Kelly-like glacial beauty deemed her an ideal candidate for Ivy League patrician roles, and Candice made an auspicious film debut while still a college student, portraying the Vassar-styled lesbian. He cast her in his controversial 1966 movie The Group, but her first foray on the screen didn't impress critics. As an actress, her only flair is in her nostrils, quipped one. Undeterred, Bergen stumbled through lackluster roles because any qualms I had about inferior or tasteless scripts were temporarily assuaged by lucrative salaries, but she was subjected to crude sexism on set. On one film, co-star Oliver Reed wouldn't speak to her off-camera after she refused to sleep with him. For another, studio executives signed off the publicity ad with, "Great, just make Bergen's tits bigger and the rifles longer, and you got it." Her love life was equally rocky. In her 20s, she had a 2-year relationship with Terry Melcher, the record producer son of legendary singer and actress Doris Day. They lived together at his Beverly Hills house on Shallow Drive, until Melcher suddenly announced they were moving to Malibu. Several months later, in August 1969, their former love nest became a murder scene when followers of cult leader Charles Manson butchered the new resident, Sharon Tate, the wife of director Roman Polanski, and 4 of her friends. Chillingly, it transpired that the murders may have been a message to Melcher, who'd reneged on a record deal with Manson. Bergen and Melcher separated soon after. Besides acting and modelling, she was also a photojournalist whose work appeared in Life, Esquire and Playboy magazines, and turned down an offer from 60 Minutes producer Don Hewitt to be a correspondent for the news magazine. She appeared in The Sand Pebbles, playing an American missionary with whom a US naval engineer, Steve McQueen, falls in love. Besides performing in movies during the 1960s, Bergen worked as a fashion model. Indeed, at the time, she was noted more for her beauty than for her acting ability. "My father used to warn me about being beautiful," she said, "and when I was like 10 years old, he said, 'You know, Candy, it's the beautiful women who commit suicide.' So I never had any vanity about it, because I always saw it as being fatal, basically." And it's a lot to deal with. You don't realise the reaction a beautiful woman has when she walks into the room unless you see her walk into the room, and suddenly the atoms shift a little bit, and that was me. Bergen starred with Yves Montand in Claude Lelouch's Live for Life, and acted in the widely panned British film The Magus, based on John Fowles' novel. She appeared as an object of desire in Mike Nichols's Carnal Knowledge, and starred as a small-town girl trying to make a life for herself in the big city in T.R. Baskin. Bergen later starred with Sean Connery in the adventure film The Wind and the Lion. Her comedic role as the protagonist's ex-wife in Alan J. Pakula's Starting Over won her favourable notice, including an Academy Award nomination. Despite her flair for comedy, Bergen continued to pursue dramatic roles. She starred with Jacqueline Bisset in George Cukor's melodrama Rich and Famous, and played photographer Margaret Burke-White in the epic biopic Gandhi. Bergen herself had begun working as a photographer in the early 1970s, and her work appeared in such magazines as Life. She later portrayed Morgan Le Fay in the TV movie Arthur the King, and took the part of the real-life Sidney Biddle Barrows in the TV movie Mayflower Madam. Most of Candice's 1970s films were dismissible and unworthy of her talents. Her performances were deemed a bit too aloof to really stand out among the crowd. During this time she found a passionate second career as a photographer and photojournalist. By now Bergen was supplementing her modelling and film work with photojournalism, a passion she'd had since university. Throughout the 1970s she regularly worked for Cosmopolitan, travelling around the world, photographing subjects as diverse as the Ku Klux Klan and Kenya's Maasai. Then in the 1970s Ms. Bergen became the first woman to host Saturday Night Live. She chummed around with Mr. Nicholson, Mike Nichols, and the hip crowd of movie makers who ushered in what was then known as New Hollywood. 3 years later, Bergen's father died of kidney disease. In his will, he left nothing to his only daughter, but bequeathed $10,000 to dummy Charlie McCarthy to fund ventriloquist performances. Ironically, the end of Edgar's life spelled a new one for Bergen, who said, "His death left a space for me. I always felt my fame was ill-gotten, sort of borrowed from his, and that perhaps I tried to keep some kind of rein on it." Candice made her Broadway debut in 1985, replacing Sigourney Weaver in David Rabb's black comedy Hurly-Burly. In 1980, Candice married Louis Malle, the older, by 14 years, French director. They had one child, Chloe. In the late 1980s, Candice hit a new career plateau on comedy television as the spiky title role on Murphy Brown, giving great gripe as the cynical and competitive anchor reporter of a TV magazine show. With a superlative supporting cast around her, the CBS sitcom went the distance, 10 seasons, and earned Candice a whopping 5 Emmys and 2 Golden Globe Awards. TV movie roles also came her way as a result, with colourful roles ranging from the evil Arthurian temptress Morgan Le Fay to an elite high-class madam, all many moons away from her initial white-gloved Debs of the late 1960s. The groundbreaking show Murphy Brown was extremely popular and became a cultural touchstone. After winning her 5th Emmy, she took herself out of the running for future consideration. She was nominated 7 times for the role. The show ended in 1998 but was briefly revived in 2018. The series provided her with the opportunity to show her little-seen comic talent, and although primarily a conventional sitcom, the show did tackle important issues. Murphy Brown, a recovering alcoholic, became a single mother and later battled breast cancer. In 1992, Vice President Dan Quayle criticised primetime TV for showing the Murphy Brown character, mocking the importance of fathers by bearing a child alone and calling it just another lifestyle choice. Quayle's remarks became comedic fodder and were written into the show, with Murphy shown watching Quayle's speech. A subsequent episode explored the subject of family values within a diverse set of families. The Brown character arranges for a truckload of potatoes to be dumped in front of Quayle's residence, an allusion to an infamous incident in which Quayle erroneously directed a school child to spell the word potato as potato. In reality, Bergen agreed with at least some of Quayle's observations, saying that while the particular remark was an arrogant and uninformed posture, as a whole it was a perfectly intelligent speech about fathers not being dispensable, and nobody agreed with that more than I did. Bergen's run on Murphy Brown was extremely successful. Husband Mal's illness and subsequent death from cancer in 1995 resulted in Candice maintaining a low profile for an extended period. In time, however, she married a second time to Manhattan real estate developer Marshall Rose and returned to acting with a renewed vigour, or vinegar, with many of her characters enjoyable extensions of her sardonic Murphy Brown character. After playing the role of Murphy Brown, Bergen was offered a chance to work as a real-life journalist. After the show ended in 1998, CBS approached her to cover stories for 60 Minutes, an offer she declined, with the conviction that she didn't personally want to blur the lines between actor and journalist at the time. After Murphy Brown, Bergen hosted Exhale with Candice Bergen on the Oxygen Network. She also appeared in character roles in films including Miss Congeniality, where she played villainous pageant host Kathy Morningside. She also portrayed the Mayor of New York in Sweet Home Alabama. In 2003 she appeared in the Gwyneth Paltrow flight attendant comedy View from the Top. In January 2005, Bergen joined the cast of the television series Boston Legal as Shirley Schmidt, a founding partner in the law firm of Crane, Poole and Schmidt. She played the role for 5 seasons. In 2006 and 2008 she received Emmy nominations for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series. Bergen guest starred on The Muppet Show in its first year, appearing in several skits, an episode now available in a DVD collection. She was also featured in a long-running Dime Lady ad campaign for the Sprint phone company. In 2006, aged 60, Bergen suffered a minor stroke. Still, she carried on working, this time on Broadway in 2012's The Best Man and 2014's Love Letters. Asked by a reporter if she needed to work, Bergen replied, "No, I'm blessed. I'm very well set. But I need to work so that I don't get periodically nuts." But Bergen has always captured people's attention where it matters, on the screen. Almost 30 years since Murphy Brown first aired, she has continued to work consistently, including in a Warren Beatty-directed biopic about Howard Hughes, due out later this year. At an age when most actresses are being phased out, she has said, "I am being phased in. With a vengeance." If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Candice Bergen? The show, Murphy Brown, portrayed by actress Candice Bergen, famously pushed boundaries by putting the actress in interesting scenarios.